branding in the magazine and some other stuff there. But again, that's kind of the floor. We can go up from there, but it would be out of our own pocket as we want to. So
this is
any
a
questions?
positive budget impact of $1,500 because for doing this, we get the $1,500 to do that.
Yeah, I guess it's not much detail there, just says the number. That's right, they're willing to give us $1,500 for this, so, yep. Any other questions?
What if we could move a period over one price?
Yeah, move that decimal over, yeah, let's do it.
That's what I was just going to say, is we tried to move the decimal just for, see if they'd catch it, but they didn't.
Yeah.
Just kidding, no dice.
You know, I've heard stories that cities that didn't actually go through this process and they branded with it, and they had to retreat a little bit. This kind of licenses us to be able to use that brand.
Yeah, they get the licensing agreement, all that, they're very particular about this stuff, but we'll stay within that and make sure we're doing it appropriately. And yeah, you could probably start looking around and seeing other cities mentioning this and having specific events or activities. Provo talked about a tree that they lit in red, white, and blue lights. Riverton, if you look at their logo, they've redone it for this year to include the 250. And so there's options. We can explore those and present them to you and talk about them, but we just have something simple to start with.
One of the beauties of this is that it seems to coincide very closely, obviously, with our city celebration, and so not everybody's is that same way, but ours is within a couple weeks of obviously the celebrations itself. So, and it's all year long, but it seems to be a good fit and helps us support.
And it's $1,500.
Yep.
You know,
It's a pretty cool logo too.
Yeah.
Mayor, if you would, I'd move to adopt the resolution recognizing the American Fork Utah 250 Committee along with memorandum of understanding and licensing agreement for support of America 250 Utah.
We have a motion by Councilmember Hunter, second by Councilmember John, or Councilmember Holly. Any discussion on the motion? I'll call for a vote. Councilmember Hunter.
Aye.
Councilmember Carroll.
Aye.
Councilmember John.
Aye.
Councilmember Taylor.
Aye.
Councilmember Holly.
Aye.
Okay, item number 3 is a review and action on approval of an amended reimbursement agreement with Phelan Lakeland LLC for infrastructure improvements. Sam, I might have you come and sit in the front row for a minute. Any questions on this?
I feel comfortable with this to make a motion.
Okay.
I move to approve the amended reimbursement agreement with Phelan Lakeland LLC for amount no greater than $991,538 for system improvements in conjunction with the Lakeland Industrial Park development.
We have a motion by Councilmember Carroll.
Second.
Second by Councilmember Taylor. Any discussion on this motion? Okay, I'll call for a vote. Councilmember Holly.
Aye.
Councilmember Taylor.
Aye.
Councilmember Hunter.
Aye.
Councilmember Carroll.
Aye.
Councilmember John.
Aye.
Okay, item number 4 is a review and action on a water banking agreement for water shares with Lane Downs for 19 acre-feet of water.
Mr. Mayor, I move to approve water banking agreement for water share and Plain Downs for 19 acre-feet of water.
A motion by Councilmember John,
I'll second.
second by Councilmember Carroll. Any discussion on this motion? Okay, I will call for a vote. Councilmember Holly.
Aye.
Councilmember Taylor.
Aye.
Councilmember Hunter.
Aye.
Councilmember Carroll.
Aye.
Councilmember John.
Aye.
Okay, item number 5 is review and action on a revised water banking agreement for water shares with Patterson Construction for 17.6 acre-feet of water.
Same one. Mr. Mayor, I move to approve the amended water banking agreement for water shares with Patterson Development LLC for 17.6 acre-feet of water.
Second.
Motion by Councilmember John, second by Councilmember Hunter. Any discussion? Call for a vote. Councilmember Carroll.
Aye.
Councilmember Taylor.
Aye.
Councilmember John.
Aye.
Councilmember Hunter.
Aye.
Councilmember Holly.
Aye.
Item number 6, review and action on a resolution to consider the petition for annexation of the TSSD Boat Harbor Pump Station annexation consisting of 31.956 acres at approximately 20 east, 1700 south. I think, Patrick, if you wouldn't mind just giving us a real quick overview of what.
Thanks, Mayor. It's just first legislative step in the annexation process. The applicants have already gone through the pre-annexation meetings with staff, gone through all of the requirements with the county, The petition really is for the council to determine whether or not you want to accept it into the city, or to accept the petition for annexation. An annexation agreement will still need to be drafted and will follow at a later point, and that will specify zoning and all other development requirements. There should be in the packet a document that outlines all utilities that are accessible currently, or anything that may need to be run to the site, as well as all other pertinent information that's required by our municipal code.
All right, if anybody has any questions, we have the 18th from TSSD here, so, but, you know, council have any questions, concerns?
Mayor, just wanted to make sure that the council received some of the amendments to the resolution, some red lines. No substantive changes. It would have been earlier today.
Yeah.
So we can go over those just quickly if you'd
Why don't
like.
you? Why don't you?
Just a clarification to the first whereas. We've removed the S from owners. We do just have one petitioner on this particular application, TESSD. So that change has been made throughout the resolution to reflect one petitioner as opposed to multiples. And then the 4th whereas statement has also been modified to read, whereas said petition contains the signature of the owner of all of the publicly owned real property within the area proposed for annexation, and the public owner is not the federal government. That's just to clarify for a qualification for annexation when it's just one entity, and that is a public entity, and that public entity is here by themselves. There are no private property requirements. So any of the language that referred to private property owners and those statutory requirements have been stricken from the resolution.
Are there any differences when we're annexing a public property as far as the annexation process?
Not necessarily, it's just how it's specified. If there was a public and private group coming in the same annexation, there are some different things that need to happen. I think you're familiar with being able to bring in some additional land, whether applicant or someone's not petitioning or not. That would need to be private land volume and valuation would need to be over 50% of that for the private component of that to bring in anyone that's not a petitioner. But that does not qualify any of the public, and you can't drag public or governmental groups in that process.
Patrick, how much of this is going to end up as shoreline protected property? It's 31 acres right now.
I don't know that one yet, council member. It's that will all be identified through the annexation agreement and all of the attachments that will be in there, as well as the different zoning designations. Looking at our existing land use map, anything that's SP on the land use map would be thereabouts for what it would be, because we have to follow the land use. That will inform the zoning. If there's delineations that come afterwards to change that, that's something that can be done at a later point. But as the land use currently sits, anything that's shoreline preservation on the land use would come in as shoreline protection in zoning. I don't have the area for that though, I'm sorry.
Ready to?
Mayor, I'd move to adopt a resolution accepting the petition for annexation of the TSSD Boat Harbor Pump Station annexation consisting of 31.956 acres at approximately 20 east and 1700 south.
Okay, have a motion by Councilmember Taylor,
Second.
second by Councilmember John. Any discussion on the motion?
Just channeling my dear Councilmember Barnes and that, whereas semicolon N needs to be added so that we don't miss that.
Yeah, and we'll, I apologize, who made the motion? Clerk, will you just clarify on the record that you are proposing the motion as articulated on the record as amended?
I want to let everyone know that I am, noting the motion as is on the record as opposed to the way it is written in the, is that, sorry Heather, what?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay, well, I have a motion, and it's been accepted as a second. Now I'm going to call for a vote. Councilmember Holly.
Aye.
Councilmember Carroll.
Aye.
Councilmember Hunter. Aye. Councilmember Taylor.
Aye.
Councilmember John.
Aye.
Item number 7 is a review and action on an application for a zone change known as Walton Lot Change located at 794 West, 1000 North Circle. The zone change will be approximately .58 acres and is in the RA1 and the R1 12,000 zone. The applicant seeks to change to the R1 12,000 zone. Go ahead.
Thanks, Mayor. Just for background for the council, the plat that currently exists, when the subdivision was approved, was a legal conforming lot, met the 1 acre requirement for the minimum area. Over time, there were some boundary line adjustments that happened outside of the city processes and recorded with the county, so the lot in question actually shrunk in size and became an illegal non-conforming lot. The proposal is to change the zoning that would allow it to go from an RA1 to a complying lot with the required density down to an R1 12,000, and that would enable the applicants to build their home. This is something that was caught as it went through the building permitting process. Our teams do a verification check on everything to make sure it meets the minimum zoning requirements. I think it was caught at that point. So this was the easiest process that we were aware of to try and bring the property into compliance.
My only question was, and maybe I missed it as I was thinking through this, but the thought of what led to the change that resulted in it becoming non-conforming?
I believe, as we looked over everything through the abstract on the county page, when the adjacent property owner owned both lots, there was an accessory structure built over a property line. When it came time to sell some of that, they had a property crossing that. They needed to redraw the boundary lines, so they did that.
As I looked at the county record, at least the plat map, that's kind of what I was wondering what the timeline was. I did not look at the abstract, but
it's a really weird shape it ended up being, so it's...
Yeah, and I wondered if, so the neighbor, I'll call it to the east, I'm assuming, was the original property owner of both of these lots?
I believe so, that's, if I recall, that's what we had looked at.
Okay. If you look, yeah. And the reason I bring it up, because that's one of my concerns, is that the cul-de-sac portion is 1 acre lots plus, and so this is be the only one that is not RA1.
That's correct.
And so-
The adjacent subdivision is all R1
To the
12,000,
to the
so it's
west,
not
it's
becoming...
consistent with that.
Yeah.
But it was and that's why I'm asking, because if the neighbor to the east is expecting an RA1 neighborhood,
Sure.
now if he was the one that they, whoever, were the ones that originally had it, and it was their situation that created a non-conforming lot, it'd be pretty tough to argue that it shouldn't be there then.
Yeah, and we've actually notified all of the adjacent property owners.
Okay.
The municipal and state requirements are that we have to notify every property owner within a certain radius, so we've pulled all those details from the county page and sent out notice.
This is probably a no-brainer, but they understand they can't have animals in this zone.
I'm not sure if they are aware of that. I think
Except chickens.
they've looked at
Depends on what animals you're talking about, but yeah.
Livestock,
Let's not
I
go down
guess.
Let's not go down the cat.
You can't have dogs, cats, and chickens. But,
I think that's the trade-off really for
yes,
development potential.
okay.
Okay, any other questions? Okay, if not, I would call a motion.
Mayor, I move to adopt the resolution approving the zoning change located at 74 West 1000 North Circle, American Fork City, from the residential agriculture RA1 to the residential R1 12,000 zones to the residential R1 12,000 zones, subject to any conditions found in the staff report.
You have a motion by Councilmember John,
Second.
second by Councilmember Holly. Any discussion on this motion? Call for a vote. Councilmember Holly.
Aye.
Councilmember John.
Aye.
Councilmember Taylor.
Aye.
Councilmember Hunter.
Aye.
Councilmember Carroll.
Aye.
Thanks, Mayor.
All right, item number 8 is review and action on a resolution ratifying the action taken by the council to authorize the issuance of lease revenue bonds and establish the maximum amount of the bonds. I'm going to start it out if I can. I'm going to have Sam. I think that there's information we have. I would like to have it on the public record as a part of this, but I'm going to start with Sam, and then I'm going to move to David on some things that they can say it better than I can tell you that.
Okay, so what I'm going to speak to is just pretty much our need and looking at some of and I can speak to one of the facilities in here when we compared it to similar cities, and that's Orem. Right now, when I look at our current facility, we are short. We have about 10 or so staff members that currently don't have any space, office space, period. We don't have enough office space on the south side of our complex for our O&M staff. They have no place to go in, access a computer, do a time card, and do simple things, access GIS, things like that. So we are short office space on that side. We're also short bay space. And when I compared, and again, I'll speak to Orem, you're looking at their population is roughly where we're looking to be at for build out, about 80 to 90,000. So when I look at what they have for their current facility, that's when we're looking to build. I would like to build it to that build out size. They state in here that they have 18,900 square feet. They actually have more than that because they have another facility where their sewer department is actually housed, and they have another 4,000 square feet of office there with 6 additional bays. So when you take into account that they're looking to be around 23.9 is what they have for space. You add the additional space that we would need for development services. Again, I compared to what Orem just did in their city center, and they have one floor that's development services. That's their zoning, their planning, engineering, and as well as building safety, and that's an additional 12,000 square feet. So now you're up to around that 34 to 36,000 square feet of space. Well, that's what we're asking for in our proposed building, roughly, is the same amount of space. Granted, it's 2 stories and there is a basement. The Orem facility has a basement as well. So looking forward, that's what we're looking to do. If we're going to go ahead and do this and build a facility and we're going to house all of those different departments there, we would like to build it so that when we're at our build-out capacity, we have space. We don't have to do a remodel, we don't have to retrofit, we don't have to do anything like that. Understanding too that even in our model with 34,000 square feet, we're not in, Orem doesn't have the utility billing and all. It's in their city center, it's on the main floor, so really at 34,000 square feet, yeah, we can make it work, but it's still gonna be tight. When I look at it from a square footage standpoint, Orem is at roughly about, I think it's 18.6 square miles, we're at about 11.2. So we're not going to be as big as they are. We're not going to have as many roads necessarily, but we have just as many water lines as they have as far as miles of pipe because we have a PI system as well. So there are some things when I start to look at it and comparing, this is where we need to be. Currently, we only have 22 bays, and when I look at what they have 36. We're going to be within that range somewhere. So our needs are pretty similar to some of these cities. Do you have any other questions about kind of the thought process and what we were doing for that?
Mayor, Sam, I think the mayor and Councilmember Taylor worked in this facility when they were in high school. Part of that facility's that old, so I have no doubt that we need to do something.
Wow, that was a dig.
That is old, that's right, approved, all in favor?
You know, that felt all dead too.
But this doesn't touch that, by the way. This doesn't touch that. This reimburses the property that we purchased. But the building that we're building doesn't do anything with the garages or the sheds, anything south of 200 South, correct?
Until we go to phase 2.
Until we go to phase 2.
one.
This is phase 1.
So bond that we're getting will cover phase 2 as well.
It's just phase 1.
Yeah, so this is not covering any of the things that Ernie just brought
All the
up.
old stuff, okay.
Yeah.
We still gotta live with that.
Yeah.
But all those uses that are on the south side, once we build on the north side, they'll move over so that we then can do the phase 2 and put the material storage and relay out the south side. So eventually those buildings will come down.
Right, but that's a whole nother bond.
It's another phase.
So I don't know how that works out with your comparison with Orem on that, but, you know,
It's
the number of
similar.
bays they have versus what we have.
And I looked at the bays, because and understanding too, there's a wing of the Orem facility is something that we haven't moved to yet, and that would be a warehouse, that would be fleet management, as well as street lighting and some other things. So there's a fair amount of bays that would be, and that's something that we would plan for on the south side.
I like the idea of putting everything there so the public has a one-stop from utility billing
Right.
all the way through, you know, development services, engineering, everything there.
Yeah, and I think, I mean, the need really for the administration building is there.
Yeah.
Could the bays be reduced from, currently we have 22, could we put in less than 36, between 22 and 36? Sure. That is something that can happen with this process, but that's all, I mean, understanding this came from a concept plan, this is a 30,000 square foot view, and this is where we're looking at cities of similar population that we want to be a build-out, and this is what they have.
I've attended 2 pre-cons in the last year over there, and there's no room. I mean, we have standing room only because we don't have
Right.
even a big enough conference room when we're doing a pre-con or, you know, a bid award or anything like that.
Right.
So, yeah, we're tight over there.
And we don't have any outdoor storage. I mean, we have outdoor storage
That's fine.
space, but we
Sheds or-
don't have anything covered. I mean, we have a lot of our water supplies in our materials. We have plastic pipe that really shouldn't be out in the sun because the sun rots and it actually degrades and then we can't use it.
Yeah.
And we have a lot of our clamps that have rubber fittings on them, and those things, yes, we know they go in the ground, but the sun is what rots them. So we can't really store a lot of things, material outside, and then we also have some equipment that we wouldn't necessarily need to store in a bay, but it needs to be covered. We have a traco, we have a tractor that we mow with, we have a grader, and I mean, we could put some of the dump, but it's just, we need to have something that keeps it out of the sun.
But nothing that we're talking about in this bond helps any of what you just mentioned.
Yes, it does.
How?
Yeah, this is, in this phase 1 on this north side, that's what we would essentially build out around the ring of theirs. We would have some sort of a covered 3-sided storage. It's going to be open, but it's not, but we would have storage that we could put those things under and keep them out of the sun.
Over by the Public Works buildings, everything north of 200 North.
Right, so, and if you guys have seen that
Yeah, I
concept,
like-
you have the building, you have the wings of bays, and then the perimeter around there would be covered storage. You would have those larger bays where we could fit a track or a grader, and then you have some shorter bays, and that's where you put in a lot of, I mean, parks right now, I think they have 12 trucks that sit outside, and it would be nice to have those all stored in when they're not being in use. We have their big mowers, and when they're shuttling things in and out in the winter, yes, they're in there servicing them, but they need to store them out of the sun during summer and whatnot. So yes, this does include some of that covered outdoor storage as well.
So then when we finished 200 on the south side of 200 North, would all of that move over there?
So also on the south side, once we phase this, essentially where we have some of the bigger bays, where we have the big bins of our aggregate, those would move to the south side. We would actually, I mean, there's stories of gentlemen using the restroom in the blue building, and there was a raccoon dropping his hand down. Yes, they've done a remodel since then, but that thing is ancient. So, but that whole row of bays would essentially be removed. And then When the other wing can be built, the whole streets area would then be relocated over, and then we would put the material-based storage over there.
How many people are in our utility billing department that would be moving?
I'm going to have David, if you wouldn't mind
Okay.
talking about that specifically and anything else you might want to add about how that shift, basically our downstairs, a lot of what people interaction we have with the public.
Yeah, so oftentimes we'll have residents who come in, have a question about their bill, they want to have a leak check or something, and so we're referring them, or they come into the office right on Main Street and say, hey, I need to talk to a planner. So we're always sending people up to 200 North. The thought here is to move the utility billing group up to this building, so they're all in one building. If someone comes in and has a question about their bill or a water leak or whatever, everybody's right in that building. And right now, we have about 6 people in utility billing that would move up there. So it's just the people on the main floor. At the admin office, we would still have finance, the recorder's department, the mayor's office, finance would still be there.
How about HR?
HR would still be there as well. So it would be the utility billing group, and they interface so much, especially when we're doing monthly meter reads, and the meter reads are getting more intense because we're adding meters to the pressurized irrigation system. There's a lot of work between the water department, utility billing. And it's great to have the water guys over at the admin building. We'd love to see them, but it's less convenient for them and less convenient for a resident. So that's one of the focuses, is to make this building be more user-friendly for our residents.
I mean, just to speak to that, the coordination that happens this month alone, because of December and January, we had 120 meter shuts that we had to go out and do. So we're coordinating with utility billing on the work orders and things that come in. So we're very integrated with utility billing.
Anything else you'd add, David? Just
No, maybe Anna or Matt or Brandon. I don't know if you
I
guys-
appreciate you coming up. I'm going to ask you, Matt, I'll ask you first, if you might just talk about, the bond, maybe the timing of everything that we're doing right now, make sure that we understand it, and maybe some of the risks and maybe some of the potential trends, I guess.
Absolutely. Can I bore you with a quick little market update?
Sure.
May I pass this out?
Thank you.
I think the fastest someone's ever fallen asleep to this is 30 seconds. Let's see if you
You haven't read Patrick's land use book, so.
No, thank you, Mayor, Council. It's a pleasure to be with you. I think, gosh, David, last fall, one of the first questions David asked me, as things were percolating for this bond, was, when's a good time to issue to get the lowest rates? And while we can't predict the future, we can certainly look at historical trends. And there's something that occurs in January, and by virtue of this, this is a weekly just municipal market update that my firm puts together. But you can see, if you go in the second section, economic and market commentary, that first little blue rectangle, it speaks to evidence of the January effect, that it's been strong in the municipal market. And this is what David, Anna, and I spoke about last fall as well. Again, we can't predict where interest rates will be, but given the size and scope of this project, you really want to be as strategic as you can be on your timing and just kind of work towards that. And January historically has been a good time to issue bonds through that interest rate lens, right? Because people, your counterparts throughout the country have taken time off, and so bond supply is generally lower in January, and where there's lower supply, there's higher demand. And so what does that mean? It just means, historically, lower interest rates. And there are trends throughout the year, of course, but this just speaks to, trying to get into the market at this time, following this trend and it has played out. You can see rates have come down even from last week, that first section where it says AAA MMD yields, you can see the 5-year, 10-year, 30-year, where those current rates are and how many basis points lower this week than the prior week. So that's been a strategy, I would say, from the get-go, again, just through that interest rate lens, is, again, given the size of the project, trying to chase the lowest rates possible. I certainly can have Brandon, the city's bond attorney, speak to the legal aspect of the resolution as we were discussing in December, bringing it back to the council with, adjusted estimates. But I'm happy to pause there. I know I threw some market stuff at you. Happy to answer any of those questions. But Mary, I know you mentioned process from here. Generally, after this action, the goal would be is get into the market. We have the bond rating. The city's bonds are rated AA2. The city's rating was upgraded to a AA1 from the AA2. Lease revenues, I think we spoke about last time, do have a rating that's just one step lower from say, a general obligation bond. But a very strong rating at a AA2, so it would be publishing the offering document to the marketplace and giving the market time to absorb the information and then selling bonds. Currently, we have the 22nd targeted for the pricing date. That's the point at which you're offering the bonds, you're selling the bonds, investors submit orders for those bonds, and you lock in your interest rates. And so rates are set at that point, and then there's about a 2-week period where once rates are locked and the commitments from investors are there, we know all the numbers, we know all the data, and it's just a matter of Brandon working till midnight every night, populating the bond documents and getting everything papered. So that would be the process at this point. But happy to answer any questions in that regard, or perhaps.
I would just say, Brandon, is there anything you feel like you need to state for just to check any boxes that we haven't currently checked? Because I think that as far as unless somebody's got a question, so tell us.
Sure, yeah, as you said, just to check the box. So if you remember last month, December 9th meeting, the council approved the bond resolution, the parameters resolution, and that the day after that, a notice was published, a notice of bonds to be issued. But there was some concern on the part of the council about the size of the bond. Initially, it was approved a maximum amount of $50 million. But with the approval of that, there was also a motion made to come back and approve a new amount. And so that's really what this is doing, is approving a new not to exceed amount. That right now in the resolution, it's $45,250,000. But that amount, it is the recommended amount based on the project, but can be set by the council at whatever. Can't be more than $50 million, because if we do, we'll have to start all over. But anything less than $50 million can be approved tonight. And like I said, at least as of right now, the staff has recommended $45,250,000.
I feel like, this is a lot of money. I mean, $1,500 is a lot of money, and especially when you're talking taxpayer money. I don't want to ever think that anything is taken lightly. This is a tremendous amount of money, but one thing I'm certain of, that this building will be practical. The spaces will be practical. We're not building something to be somebody to just be ooh and ahhed over. No, won't happen. It's going to last for a generation. We're not going to build something that's dumpy, that will fall apart when the earth shakes. It's going to be something, Public Works is the backbone of our community. It's the infrastructure, everything about it. Billions of dollars are there, and we have the biggest share of our workforce that will be housed there as well. And I feel good about it, but I will guarantee it's not going to stick out like a sore thumb amongst the community. It will match, it will be practical, and every square inch of it will be thought of in that way. I just don't like the stigma of what government buildings can be, because we have never done that. It's not who we are. So, But you know what, I said we still have to deliberate, have everybody just kind of stay and let's talk about it as a council and see where we want to go with this and how we feel about it.
So I'm going to make some comments, Mayor and City Council. And I've talked to most of you. Unfortunately, I couldn't catch you because of your water meeting today. But as I said, I've talked to you. I looked over the PowerPoint that David showed us. Ryan and I talked to some more as well because he does this a lot for work. And I am very convinced that this is way too big for our city. I shared my thoughts with, as I said, the three of you. I thought about this a lot over the past couple weeks and look at the comparables. And then Ryan showed me some additional comparables. And I would be very, very hard pressed to justify for American Fork City now or 30 years from now when we're fully in built out mode that we need a 45,000 square foot building. I'm pretty convinced that based off of the other cities that we were seeing, whether it was Orem or South Jordan or, let me see the other ones that we have here, West Jordan, Ogden, Provo, they all have, the biggest building on this spreadsheet that we're seeing was 25,000 square feet. And the ones that are about our size are 15 to 19,000 square feet. So when I look at this and we hear people like Roy Shelley who come here and talk about finer pencil, is I am 100% in agreement. And I'm not in 100% agreement just in isolation with this building, but like we talked about, all three of you, is that there are many other projects that we need to look at down the road. That we have a lot of big projects and probably ones that are just as important as this, such as the fire station. And so I would strongly suggest, and I would be hard pressed to support this large of a building, and would argue that we need to have it more around that 25 to 30,000 square foot space. And that would save, I could do the math, I'd have to look at the exam, but somewhere around $5 to $10 million of city money. And as I said, I appreciate, Sam, what you put in and what you said, and I have no problem. I know people need a place to work. People need a nice place to work. They need a safe place to work. The Marine Corps, we kind of pride ourselves on living in dumpy old buildings, so I'm probably the antithesis of buildings. In Europe, for instance, I work in 100-year-old buildings that are retrofitted German buildings, and they're not pretty, but they accomplish the mission, and that's what we need. And so considering all that, I would strongly suggest that the city council push for a much lower bond, probably in the $35 to $40 million mark. And as I said, I would be hard pressed to support anything over that amount. And we want to go into more details or anything like that, but as I said, I talked with all of you, I went through numbers, and I thought about this a lot over the past couple weeks, but I'd be very hard pressed to support a 45,000 square foot building with construction costs of $32 million.
I think, so I haven't fully formed this thought, so it's going to be coming out of my mouth. Certainly, as we're looking at other public works departments, we have to make sure that we're comparing the same number of people or the same number of departments that are in them. And I know our building has historically, and we're hoping will have many more than it is in a traditional just public works. So we're not talking just sewer, storm drain, PI, we're talking a much more broad scope of our city. But this is a very large bond for us. And I want to make sure that we're doing the wise thing. I think one of my questions was, as kind of going down this track of questioning, if there was a scenario where we didn't move the utility billing department, would that save any space? Would that save any money there? I'm only thinking that practically it does. We're still going to have two buildings. There's probably still going to be some crossing back and forth, and I don't know, maybe I'm naive in this, but I don't know how much it's going to save time or frustration for people, and if it really is going to save us. Anyway, I'll stop talking. Is there an answer to that question?
Yes, I mean, certainly if you reduce the number of people that are in that building, then there could be less square footage, for sure. I don't know what that exact number is, but it would be less. And the less square footage you build, the less money it will cost, right? So if we did say, okay, we're gonna, instead of being at that 30,000 square feet office space, if it goes down, another 5,000 square feet or something, then yeah, we could lower we would lower the amount that we would need for the construction.
Another question that I had that came up, I think you mentioned this already, but during the build of it, would the current building be maintained and then it would be taken down after?
Right.
Is that the plan?
Just as far as a phasing plan, so that we can stage the construction. The construction could happen on the new building, leaving everybody where they are currently. Once it's finished, then we would move everybody over to the new building, and then we would take down the old building. And that way, we don't have to move off-site.
Yes.
I know cities, when they try and reconstruct on the existing site, that oftentimes they're looking for rental property somewhere else in the city to house their workers and their equipment while they build on the same site. And it's a challenge. Phasing is a challenge, but the way we've looked at this is we could build the new building, leave everybody in the existing building for now. We won't have to go off-site, won't have to rent another facility, and then just move everybody over when it's finished.
I'd come at this from a couple of different viewpoints. Tim's mentioned some, Stacy has also mentioned others, and I think of the situation, and I don't bid things commercially. I don't know exactly how that works. I look at the time and effort that we as a council put into major projects, whether they're roadways, 700 North, the amount of debate that we have on things like roundabouts and all that went into 200 South and all of these things that we talk about, and there's a significant amount of time that goes into those. Even the 30 acres that we have as we prepare for Station 5-3 and the amount of time that goes into that. Now, regardless how this sounds, I think those of you who've worked with me long enough knows I'm not throwing rocks, I'm not casting aspersions here, but it seems like with a project this big, where I tend to get reluctant is, we knew this was going to happen because we've been purchasing property up and down 3rd East and that, so that we could ensure that it happens. And yes, I have been around, since dirt, it feels like, in the city with the nice blue metal building that we have down there. But with all of these projects, not this one is the exception, we've talked about it. We've had discussions on what was going to be needed. We weren't surprised by information that was presented. I am extremely aware of how important it is to get these bonds out for a lease revenue bond and make sure that, we're able to maximize for the taxpayers' opportunity, and as us as stewards of those dollars, making sure that we can get the absolute best interest rate that we possibly can. I'm also keenly aware, because I was around at this time when we first built the rec center in American Fork, and I don't know how many of you remember that, but we redid the track, I believe, 3 times in that building because we didn't build it right the first time. And I understand all those things, and so I'm trying to take everything into consideration. And I don't know how much time we would need and maybe everyone on this DS is all dialed in except for me. But in my line of work and coming into this, we would have to go out, and we went to multiple clients and we said, they would say, now the budget is this. And just as a rule, I would make sure that we were nowhere near that budget, whether we were over that budget or whether we were significantly under that budget. Because to me, it seemed extremely disingenuous to come in, if the budget is $2,000, to come in at $1,989. Could be just a philosophy, but that's what I bring to the party here. I would love to be able to, and I don't know how long it would take, and I'm not suggesting it takes multiple months. I would just love to be able to sit down and discuss what we're talking about here. All the information that Sam disseminated tonight was fantastic. It was great to know that. I did not know that before tonight. We talked about the covered bays, but I thought, that was what was happening on the south side of 2nd North. If you are all prepared, then let me know, because I don't feel like I am. I would love to be able to discuss this at least in some type of work session, have a different idea, have the breadth of ideas that we are talking about going into this building, and then say, okay, I'm comfortable with $45 million, I'm comfortable with $40 million, I'm even more comfortable with $32 million, whatever that amount might be. That's where I'm coming from with this. If we can get by with less square feet, then I think we should. I absolutely think we should. I agree with Tim 100% in that. What I don't know is what square footage is even going to be required. And you know, we talk about things like, you know, water lines and parks and the number of parks, and American Fork has a tremendous amount of parks, more than neighboring cities perhaps, and all of these things. I would just like to be able to sit down and say, okay, in this building, this is what we're going to do. It's going to require this much square feet. And you know what? It's actually, we can come down to 37,000 square feet instead of 45. I don't know what those are. I would love the chance to discuss that. Not that I'm going to bring some wealth of information that's going to enlighten everyone, but I just think when multiple minds get together in something like this, as we strive to be the best stewards we can be for the taxpayers' dollars in the city, I would love for the opportunity to do that. That's why I'm reluctant to vote yay on this tonight, just so you all know. That's where I am.
Mr. Mayor, I agree with Councilmember Taylor that I would like a little bit more, but I don't want to take too long. And I really like building for build out, and I'll give you, I'm going to say the bad word, Ryan, I'm going to give you the PI system. We voted the PI system down in the 80s, late 80s. We voted it down in the mid 90s. And the last time we voted down in the mid 90s, it was $22 million. When we built it in 2007, it was $47 million. That's what that bond was.
The first time we voted on it, when I was a city councilman, it was less than $8 million.
Yeah, so I mean, it went from 8 to 20 to 47.
That's not fair, because water didn't exist then.
Fair.
That's true.
We're talking about getting water, however, anyway.
But I like the idea of building for build out, because things are only going to increase. Do we need to take a better look at it and go through a work session? Yeah, that would be a great idea, but I don't want to be short-sighted. I mean, one of the things that we've talked about is MAG is behind on population. UDOT's behind on population, so our transportation corridors, everything is lagging. This is the opportunity to say, what do we need? Let's not go overboard, and I don't believe that Sam or David or our staff want a Taj Mahal. I don't believe that. I think they want a functional building that'll give them what they need and no more. But let's take the opportunity to look at it and say, what's it going to be if we do it now or finish half of it in 20 years? I think we got an opportunity to, in the long run, get the best product we can get for the best dollar we can get.
And Ernie, just to agree with you, I am 100% for building to build out. I'm not looking at, I want this to be ready. I don't want to have to build another building. With the technology and everything that goes into construction today, I don't think we would need to get there to build out. So I get that, so.
Mayor, if I can, it's been mentioned that this is a little bit in my wheelhouse, and it is something that I deal with every day. Had ironically, Public Works building came out for public bid, or not bid, but the RFP came out today for another city along the Wasatch Front that I will be proposing on. So this is what I do every day. I certainly am farthest from an expert at doing this. I would just say that. There's a couple things. I love the idea of looking at build out. We talk about this. We just had a meeting with all of our legislators, and the argument the entire time is that nobody's looking at build out for our roads. I love that that's where our council's head is at. That said, we've already agreed that this isn't a build-out project. We're not saying we're building the entirety of this project in one phase. If that was the argument, then I'd probably say, great, let's do 60 million, whatever the number was, right? The fact is, we've already agreed that we're not building the entirety of this project at this stage. There is an entire, in fact, there's more land on the, haven't done the actual measurement, but it appears that there's more land on the south side of 200 North than there is on the north side of 200 North that's still yet to be developed and acquired for that matter. And so if that's the case, there's automatically space for us, in my mind, to add to that. I love the consolidation idea. We did that for South Jordan when we did a project for them. Consolidating, putting it into one campus and having that ability to be able to have residents show up and, oh, yeah, sorry, it's not drive across town to go talk to them. It's walk across the hall. They're in that building. They're on that side of the hall, not this side of the hall. That's very consistent with, or at least helpful, I guess, especially when you're working that closely with so many. I mean, Ernie mentioned the idea of trying to have a meeting there. I mean, it's
Yeah, it's
impossible.
impossible.
I mean, there's a conference room that's about the size of an office, truly. And you fit 6 or 8 people in there, and otherwise it's not working. So I'm not suggesting we don't have a need. I guess the thought for me is, well, before I finish that, there was a comment about comparing it to other cities. I think it's really important to understand that when we go out to bond, what we're hearing in the market, I mean, we're building one of the ones you mentioned, our company I'm with, the number that you hear in the news and is shared in newspaper articles is a construction cost. This is all in. This is bond fees, this is FF&E, this is land acquisition reimbursements, that's not the dollar amount that when you hear about it in the news. And in fact, I was literally, while sitting here, looking up the actual pay app for one of those, confirming that what I thought in my head was the case. And so we have to be careful that when we think we understand where the dollar amount is on a particular neighboring project, that it may not in fact include the realities of those. David and I have had pretty candid conversations that I'm not probably at liberty to discuss with regard to which cities, but there's construction costs, and then there's all the other ancillary costs that take it beyond what that number is. I actually appreciate staff coming in and saying, here's our number. Because now we're not trying to pull the wool over the eyes and say, well, it's a $32 million project. Because that's oftentimes how that's done, and then you hear about a bond that, or maybe you don't ever hear about the bond that was actually $50 million. So I personally, especially knowing that we have a second phase that will in fact happen, I'm intrigued by bringing maintenance in-house. We did a design for the city on a maintenance, public works field facility. Our firm chose to walk away from it because they were over $800 a foot in dollar per square foot. It was absolutely ridiculous. They ended up walking away from the truck wash in that bay. But the whole intent in building their new facility was because they wanted to bring maintenance in-house. The truck wash went away, so they could no longer wash their salt trucks. Their maintenance lift for all their vac trucks and everything went away. So that's what started happening when it didn't fit the budget. So but I would be interested to say, let's give them a number that we think is a realistic number that could include perhaps the north side, knowing that we are going to build the south half. And maybe we say, you know what, the covered parking, the employee parking, maybe that is going to have to be a phase 2 piece. Or maybe we end up saying, you know what, we will end up building some more admin space in the south of 200 North, in the old Blue Barn facility. Maybe we need to have a little separation there. Maybe it's office space, not for public facing, but it can be the restaurant facility for all our public works guys that are going to be picking their truck up on the south side. For me, because we know inherently that we're not doing the other portion, I'm comfortable with saying, let's set a limit. Another project we did, the state, they came in, they said, we're going to shortlist our group, then we're going to hard bid it. And we want you to tell us what your hard bid is, and then I want you to hard bid out alternates. and the ad alternates came in, and we happened to, we're lucky enough to win it, and we were able to build a whole nother concession stand and softball complex as part of that project, because our number was tight enough that we were able to add those in. Maybe we treat it in that same scenario where we say, we've got 35 or 40, whatever the number is that we come to. If it's 40 million all in, great, then we only have $22 million for construction costs, or whatever the math is. Tell me what you're gonna get me for that then. And maybe that's part of us being able to sharpen the pencil. I'm with you. I shared one example with David earlier about a project we did. We did a fire station 3 years ago, and they were built out. They didn't even have full-time firefighters at the time. They built the building to accommodate dorm rooms, knowing that they didn't want to build dorms up later. We went in and built the dorms after they actually transitioned from volunteer staff to full-time staff. So I'm in favor of that. I think in this scenario where we know we're building another phase, I mean, unless in my opinion, we're either doing 70 million or we're doing 40 or something to that effect. So, you're right, I don't know. I don't know if that helped or hindered or.
Well, we have a couple of different options, essentially. Setting a different standard, setting a different rate, or deferring, delaying, or doing something completely different. Do we know what the rate is right now? Or do you have to wait till you go to bond market to know?
We can estimate it. It's coming in just shy of 5% on the interest rate.
Okay.
But we don't really know until we sold bonds and gotten orders from investors, so.
Okay.
Can I ask, sorry, that's a great question, because it occurred to me that I'm not sure what the bond market's necessarily tied to. Is it T-bills, or what is it typically? What is it following?
Yeah, it's its own market. There's a primary and secondary market. It's not pegged like mortgages priced to mortgage-backed securities.
Obviously, we've seen that with the billions of dollars that have been recommended to be put towards Fannie and Freddie, which clearly are not this, but is that going to impact? Do we anticipate that driving rates down?
That's a great question.
Pull out your
right?
crystal ball and answer me right now. No, I'm just kidding.
The mortgage market is, it does, we're very much affected by, the Fed definitely affects our marketplace. Our market works close in tandem with treasuries, just the way that the fixed income market is, globally. But the bond market is its own market. Securities are priced daily, right? And it changes based on economic data, headlines, and different things.
So, I'm sorry, I feel like that was what I would answer if I was the politician answering that question. And I don't mean to deflect, I'm just genuinely curious. Would you anticipate rates dropping based on Fed investing hundreds of billions of dollars in
mortgage-backed securities? I don't know that will be a significant driver in our market. I guess my caveat to that is I don't know that we've seen a move like that before. Yeah, right. But just again, because the market's changed. But we do our best to make estimates, and there's voices out there that are anticipating rates could go down this year, right, with the Fed and some of the things happening nationally that could lower rates. That would affect the short end of the yield curve. There are economists that are thinking long-term rates will just kind of stay the same, and oftentimes when that's the case, when economists are projecting rates to stay the same, it's just because they don't know. There's a lot of unknowns right now due to geopolitical factors.
But if we wait, and traditionally, based on your experience, that this is the best time to get in the bond market. If we were to wait 2 or 3 weeks, we could go the other way. That could negatively affect us to a significant degree, minor? I mean, and I know that's crystal ball stuff, but.
Yeah, I think I mentioned in December, we know rates will go up, we know they'll go down, we just don't know how much or when. But, you know, a 2 to 3 week, interest rates are, and again, I appreciate staff being strategic, right? Dollar amount, you really want to look at historical trends and target your market. But I don't know that rates are your driver, right? You know, I mean, the project's the driver, your preferred timing is the driver, the council's comfort, you know, your staff's recommendations. And, you know, the nice thing is once, you know, a project, you know, once we're told, hey, get us in the market, then we can really get granular. And the rates change week to week. We haven't seen sizable shifts. You know, sorry, it's a loaded question because last year and the year prior, we did see some pretty sizable swings when tariffs were announced. And that was one of the biggest swings I've seen in my 20-year. I hit 20 years last week in the business, and when the tariffs took place, you know, we saw swings that we hadn't seen since COVID hit our shores, right? So there's been tariff, COVID, and the credit crisis have been the biggest, you know, market moves. We're in our market, that's a 25% move, which is a big move.
Which is a big deal.
Which is a big
$45 million, that's a big deal.
Sure. But I don't know if that information's helpful.
Mayor, I don't know if you're ready for this or I don't know what. For me, I can get behind a $40 million number, knowing that I know staff is already going to look at it from I actually appreciated that when we were approaching other projects where it was before I was on this council, so I had nothing to do with it. But it was actually a lot of the conversation was, I don't want residents to call me and say, why does our fill-in-the-blank building, you know, whatever it was, building, look like some sort of a Taj Mahal, right? Then why is it a museum to whatever? And frankly, I mentioned this other city that we did, it was over $800 a foot for a public works building. And there's no need to design to that. And I think hopefully if we give them a number that is tight, maybe we can get together and pull some and say, you got to be really consistent. We also don't want to build this thing out of a tin blue building so it looks like it does now. Obviously, we want a 50-year life building. And I think hopefully that gives us the ability and maybe we have to go without some stuff. Maybe we don't have the covered parking until phase 2, or maybe we end up only, I don't know what would be pulled out, but perhaps we live with what we've got until there's other options. I'm convinced that construction costs will not go down. I can promise you that. I did a very significant study on Lehigh's building. Even during the Great Recession, construction cost pricing did not even dip. It came very flat, dipped ever, I mean imperceptibly, but it will not cost less anytime from now. It will cost the least amount of money if we do it now, but at the same time, if we don't have the money and we have other needs, I didn't mention that earlier, but the roads on the train side and the lake side of town, we've got to come up with a way to come up with those funds.
I mean, we have 200 South. We have
200 South. I think, in my opinion, there's other things. We can agree to disagree. I'm just saying, to throw that bond onto another bond, onto a rec center, onto other things, Fire Station 5-3 and either whatever improvements have to happen there. There's other needs, in my opinion.
Great.
And if we pull $10 million off this number, Tim said it to me earlier, but that's half this fire station that we're going to go build. I mean, that's a significant, and maybe we don't get it all, but hopefully we can get a 50-year life, half of the structure that we end up with. So I guess I would move that if we're ready for that.
I'm ready to take it wherever you want, Council.
I'll make a motion that we approve a $40 million max bond.
I second that.
You want to, I think.
Do I need to read the entire?
Let's read this.
I move that we adopt a resolution ratifying the actions taken by council to authorize the issuance of lease revenue bonds and establish a maximum amount of the bonds at $40 million.
And I second that again.
Okay, I have a motion by Councilmember Hunter, second by Councilmember Holly. Any discussion?
I guess, I mean, not to, I'm not gonna use that expression. We're not gonna talk about horses anymore. Not to overburden the same point, $40 million is the max. And I think that's something that's important that we need to remind, is that just because it's $40 million doesn't mean we're gonna, to your point, Councilmember Taylor, we're not gonna look for 39,999,999 building because we have $40 million. So, that's all.
Yeah, so you all know where I'm coming from. I'm not saying 45 is not the right number. And I'm not saying, when Stacy said delay, I flinched up. I'm not asking for even 2 months, and I don't know how fast we can get it done. But I would just love to be able to have the discussion, because I don't worry so much about people saying, hey, you're building the Taj Mahal, as much as, what in the world are you building for 38, 32, $25 million? And I can say, well, you know what, we've had administration in one building, we've had public works in another building, we've had engineering in another building, and it really makes it difficult for people who want to do business with American Fork City to be able to come and do that. So we've got a plan now, and we've worked strategically for the last 5 years in purchasing properties around our current public works headquarters, so that we could bring everything together and make a central point for American Fork City. And so, in this one building that we're building for, pick a number, we are going to have our city administration there, we're going to have engineering, and so that people can come in and need to work with that, they're able to do that, just like you see in the other big girl or big boy cities that are around there. We're putting those things together so that we can work efficiently and be able to do that. That's all I was suggesting for me, and I appreciate the reduction of another 5.2 million. I honestly do. I just wonder if, but to me, it's still an arbitrary number.
For sure.
And so when I was suggesting that we kind of sit back and have a look, I wasn't suggesting putting this on the back burner and say, we'll get to it when we get to it. It's obviously a piece of priority. I am in absolute no way trying to stonewall this, back this up, any of those things. I want to be able to understand, I want to be able to say, reason amongst ourselves and say, hey, you know what, let's, maybe if we do this different, it would be different. Then we can go back to the concept plan and come through, and it may seem different. Maybe we don't need 45,000 square feet, and we've decided on a new number is better. That's all I'm asking for. That's all I was asking for. So,
Well, I guess David or city staff, could we get something where we could look at it and then bring this back 2 weeks from today?
2 weeks.
Like, is that possible?
Could it be anything more?
So, the tough part is until we really hire an architect group and start really diving into layout and space needs and how that's all coming together, it's really hard to get to that number. Can we do that in 2 weeks? Probably not with an architect. We would have to procure an architect, but during the process that we will go through with that architect is that finite detail analysis of what actually does need to be there. Can we shave off this? Can we be more efficient here? That's where we can really get into those exact numbers. I mean, even in the CMGC process, there's a lot of design considerations, value engineering, and that's where we can really define what those numbers really are.
What if we do 45 million?
Well,
and then set our number at 40?
my only concern in that, and I thank you for speaking up, because I think it's a great comment. My concern, and maybe this can help me, is what is our cost? I don't want to miss out on the opportunity for bond rates being where they're at. Historically, have traditionally been lowest in January, right? I agree, we need to design to whatever our needs are, not to a dollar amount. Now, to your point, I'm not sure that I've ever seen an architect not design to a number plus 10% or whatever it is. But hypothetically, we go to the bond market, secure $40 million in bonds. What's our cost in procuring that? What premium are we paying if we do land at 35 million? I know you can't go over that.
We're not getting a line of credit, though. We're going out with $40 million of bonds. If we go out with $40 million, it's $40 million.
I know, but you could pay, if you didn't use 5 million, you go pay it back instantly, right? No?
No, it's a bond.
So I guess if that, and that maybe reinforces, I guess, my perspective, because then it's like, well, we got a whole nother phase on the other side. I'm not necessarily opposed, I don't think we're that far out of line. This one that came out today is a $17 million structure construction costs. That's one that just
You
hit.
can also sit on those dollars for the south side of 200.
Which, that's where I'm headed. That's why I'm saying now we could go out and bond for 70 million. We gotta pay the note on it.
That sits a little more comfortable with me.
Anyway.
May I clarify just a couple things? I just want to make sure the council fully understands. So, yes, you're exactly right, Clark. So, currently, when you sell bonds, you are locked in, and it's not a line of credit. You've borrowed it, right? You've borrowed for the full amount. Yes, yeah. So, and Brandon, through his legal lens, can throw something at me if I'm wrong. You have to spend these proceeds within 3 years.
And that's what I was just going to ask.
So you can't hold them indefinitely. Well,
Really, it's 5 years, but
generally, the council should have reasonable expectation to spend it within 3 years. So that may be another consideration. And, certainly January has historically been an excellent time to issue bonds. Has January always been the lowest time in the year? Like last year, right? Tariff happened and rates shoot up, but then they came back down in the summer months. But again, just appreciate, David's always very strategic. I've always appreciated that about him. And that's been what's driving this time to try to capture this market. But certainly, January has not always been the lowest time of the year.
Can I ask one more question that I should have asked already, but haven't? Is this the biggest priority need in the city right now?
I think it's a very, very big priority. Couple of reasons. Number one is we do not have the space over there right now. Our employees are on top of each other. We are not providing good service, and it's difficult for our employees to do that right now. It really would depend on who you ask. Chief Rose will tell you a fire station or another fire truck or another ambulance right at the top of the list. And I don't disagree with that either. Priority-wise, this is a high priority. As far as, if there's extra dollars that we don't spend, on the south side, we have a couple million more dollars worth of property to buy on that south side. We're not done securing the land even on that south side. Now, we don't want to borrow more money than we need. I'm certainly in favor of making sure that number is as tight as we can possibly make it. Let's not borrow an extra dollar if we don't need it. I am completely on board with that.
Chief, we're going to go ahead and get you a new fire engine, take delivery in February of this year. So there you go.
I want to say that in my estimation, some of the very basic, most important things that a city does are housed in this Public Works building, and to have it be not functioning well, I think is pretty high priority, and for me personally.
Yeah, I appreciate that. That was me just asking the question, not necessarily disagreeing with it, as is made by my motion.
I have a motion and I have a second. Anything about what's transpired?
Can I ask one more question? If we were to pass this and we have to get an architect, And I don't want the city council to be in the nitty-gritty of everything, but is there a potential for us to have further conversations about what might be in it, what might not be in it?
You know what,
At that point.
here's the thing, the city council has the prerogative to do whatever they want.
Absolutely have to.
And it can be a work session, and the reason it
Yeah.
hasn't is because we've had a lot of material, conceptual, and then questions, if we had them. But I do know the process. It's a process that I'm familiar with, we've done it before. Maybe not on this amount of money, but I always knew too. I know the mindset of the people that I'm working with and how we will do that $1,500 bond or grant no matter what it takes. And I've never known them to just trip over millions of dollars. And I do know that even if the process works and we do need the 45 million, I know that we go across the street and we can, I'm not saying we spend it frivolously, but it's just going to buy us more time over street. I think that we ought to consider putting a box culvert bridge over there, so that. Over the creek. Over the creek.
Yeah.
Those don't come cheap. Otherwise, we're going out of the road, coming back, and we might as well link that so that it's cohesive. And so, I've seen the conceptual plans in the packet. There's lots of them. It shows everything of the layout, and then it says, do you have any questions? I've asked the question. So, I would be very comfortable taking, knowing that we have probably at least $3 million to buy just a property across the street. I don't want to fall short of that. But you know what? We can do a lot with 40 million too. We can do a whole lot with that. And
I guess that's why, that's why I'm okay, knowing that we can apply this within the 5 years. It could even come by way of reimbursements. We could sit on some reimbursements and jump on that if we're coming up against that date. So I'm okay with that vote now, so.
Like 40 or 45?
40, the motion.
all right, I have a motion and a second, and I'm going to call for a roll call vote. Councilmember Hunter,
Aye.
Councilmember John,
Aye. I'd rather 44, but aye.
Councilmember Carroll,
Aye.
Councilmember Holly,
Aye.
Councilmember Taylor.
Aye.
All right. Hey, nothing like a little bit of sausage being made, let it be made. So thank you very much. Thank you for your time, for being here. Royce, thank you for being here. Okay. All right, item number 9 is a review and action on a resolution executing a lease purchase agreement for the purchase of Fire Station 5-3 and related equipment. Thank you, Anna.
I don't know, I'm hoping we turn this down and they have to peel our name off the side of this thing. Lambeau Field will have never seen a better AF fire truck.
I bet you didn't puff out your big old Chicago Bears chest up there, did you? Yeah. Chief.
All right, Anna, why don't you just give us a little overview? on
Yeah,
this?
thank you, Mayor. So there is a very large lead time in between ordering a truck and actually taking possession of it. We ordered the truck in April of 2023, so it's been about a 33-month lead time. We should take possession early next month with equipment added to the truck as well. It's a 7-year lease with a 4.47 interest rate with Zions Bank Corporation, with debt service starting next January of 27.
Is that a $1 buyout at the end, or is it
It is a lease to own.
a lease to own?
Yes.
Okay. Mayor, I'd move to approve a resolution for the lease purchase agreement in substantial form with Zions Bank Corporation, N.A., Salt Lake City, Utah, in the amount of $1,137,152, and authorizing the execution and delivery thereof.
Second.
Okay. I have a motion by Councilmember Hunter, second by Councilmember Holly. Any discussion on this motion? I'll call for a vote. Councilmember John.
Aye.
Councilmember Taylor.
Aye.
Councilmember Hunter.
Aye.
Councilmember Holly.
Aye.
Councilmember Carroll.
Aye.
All right, we're about halfway. Let's keep going. Item number 10 is a review and action on the award of the design contract for the Bully Well Rehabilitation Project.
Well, this is a long time coming.
It is.
Yes, it has.
So I'm going to talk a little bit about this. David, we talked about this yesterday, but I do think it's important to bring this up on the record. I'll try and find it in here. I talk about this all the time. This is another one of those points I belabor, because once again, there are no horses involved with my arguments. But if you go to, I believe this is page 141 on the packet, but it shows the 3 different bids. And the dollar amount is one thing, but I get concerned when the hours are so off. And so when Horrocks says they can do the job in 233 hours, Bowen says it takes 855, and Hanson says it takes 737, I get concerned. And actually, Ryan brought up a good point about what's their labor per hour cost, what if they go over, and lots of other things. I know that we do a lot of double checking and everything like that, but when 3 companies come in and 2 say it's gonna take about 700 to 800 hours, and another company comes in at a third to the fourth, I have issues with taking the lowest bid, assuming that they're gonna be able to do the same quality of work in a third of the time or a fourth of the time. So, anyway, if there's anything to answer to that, and I know, as I said, David, we talked about this yesterday, but it's not just a dollar amount at this point, because they highlighted the hours, and so can we really be certain that Horrocks can do the same quality job in a third or a fourth of the time?
Yeah. So Horrocks is the engineer doing the same thing with DeWeer. And I look at this, the one thing that I feel good about, it says Horrocks submitted a proposal closest to the requested scope. Horrocks has a tight pencil, and they have not submitted a single changeover or went over on the project I'm on right now. So, doesn't mean they can't, but.
Yeah, so design hours is one thing. Are they not self-performing the construction on it? Obviously, they're an engineering firm, they're a CM firm. So this would not include the construction side of it, where the other 2 firms are including the construction side?
They'll be there for a portion of it, but the other benefit that Horrocks has is they've also been part of the other well rehab, so they know exactly what's going to happen and what's going to be there. That's part of the reason why there's so much less too, is they've done these before.
They've already done so much of the
So
art.
a lot of it's going to be plug and play, and it's just going to be kind of an equipment upgrade if there's anything new out there.
So, and I guess then, are they CMing the well rehab, and then we're gonna have to approve another contract that will take it from whatever their total number of 53,000 going, or this isn't even right? Because it goes up to 800,000 or something.
So when it comes time to actually being installed and built, they will be there for a portion of it, but our city staff will also be there as well. They base this all off of what they've done on previous projects. So, and those rehab projects happened prior to me being here, so I'm assuming that it was our staff that were on site and were helping with them, and then Horrocks would be there for RFIs and things like that were outside of our scope.
Our staff spent a lot of time up at the Country Club well, when we did the Country Club well, because I was up there with them for part of it, so, yeah.
You know, and I'll tell you this, Councilmember Holly, I've been spending maybe way too much time learning the historical facts on the PI system, some of the discussion of the public meetings in and around it. Horrocks designed the whole thing. They really did. John Sheesh's name was throughout all the minutes. They kind of have an edge when they start bidding into our city.
John Sheesh's name's on all the water projects throughout the city.
And that's where Horrocks has a huge advantage over some of these other companies, is they are so intimately familiar with every aspect of our water system. They know this fully well. They know the racetrack well. They know our water system. And I'm comfortable that Horrocks, and they're an established, experienced firm, they've been with us for 30, 40 years. If they looked at this and said, hey, there's something more to this, then I really would have I have confidence that they would have put that in their bid. But it's a good question, Councilmember, to say, hey, wait a minute, this looks off. This one's, 1/3 the hours of these others and 1/3 the cost. That is a great question, and that's the questions we ask also internally. We've had this happen to us before, where some bidder is substantially lower than the next, and we go to them and say, have you included everything that's in the scope? because if you haven't, you better get it in there. And I have had a time where I've questioned a bidder, and they've said, yep, I missed it. I said, then I would suggest you withdraw your bid, because we're going to hold you to the scope. And they've withdrawn.
That's great. To know that staff is vetting that is valuable, so.
And Brett Wood is actually John Sheese's protege. He's taken over for him.
Mr. Mayor, I move that the city award the bowling well rehabilitation design in the amount of $53,286 to the responsible local proposer, Porox, and to approve the design agreement substantially as presented, in addition to a project engineering contingency of $10,000 to be held by the city.
Second.
Motion by Councilmember Taylor, second by Councilmember John. Any discussion on this motion? Going to call for a vote. Councilmember Carroll?
Aye.
Councilmember John?
Aye.
Councilmember Holly?
Aye.
Councilmember Taylor?
Aye.
Councilmember Hunter?
Aye.
Okay, item number 11 is review and action on the award of the design contract for the Dixie Well project.
Mayor, I move the city approve the design agreement in substantially the form as presented for the Dixie Well engineering project with Bowen Collins and Associates.
Second.
We have a motion by Councilmember Carroll, second by Councilmember Taylor.
I just want to say something real quick, Mayor, on this, and this is something, once again, David and I talked about yesterday, is that Horrocks didn't bid on this, apparently, and I think they just missed the bid or something along those lines, and this is just something that I think is that if this is a $300,000 project, then we possibly lost out on a couple $100,000 if they're that much of a better bid. And so, I don't know if we have like preferred vendors or something like that, but I think that if we could do that in the future where there are RFPs sent out, assuming that's legal and everything like that, if we have preferred vendors that have done a good job and done it for more affordable prices, that we make sure they see it so that they are bidding on these projects and not missing out on dollars and good quality work.
As a city, I don't think we can have preferred vendors. Can we?
Not on RFPs.
We can have pre-qualifiers, but we have master services agreement with different firms saying, hey, you're welcome to bid on these projects, so they're pre-qualified. Bowen & Collins is another fantastic firm that has done a lot of great work for the city, a lot of great work for other cities around us, and Timpanogos Special Service District as well. So they're very capable. I feel like we're getting a very good deal on this project as
And
well.
ironically, this might be an area that Horrocks doesn't, it's a little bit, it's south. They didn't really have design that I know of, but, no, and we have representation from Bowen & Collins. Great firms, both of them are. And I think that you have to think that it was strategic. I mean, Horrocks, they know what's going on in the whole western United States, I think, sometimes.
Keith loves hanging out with us anyway.
Okay, I do have a motion, a second, and I'll call for a vote. Councilmember Holly.
Aye.
Councilmember John.
Aye.
Councilmember Taylor.
Aye.
Councilmember Hunter.
Aye.
Councilmember Carroll.
Aye.
Item number 12 is review and action on the award of the design contract for the 860 East, 1300 South Storm Drain Project.
Mayor, I move that the city approve the design contract in substantially the form as presented for the 860 East 1300 South Storm Drain Project for Francis Civil Engineering.
You know, we've got some great
Second.
civil engineering.
We do.
Right. Okay, I have a motion by Councilmember Hunter, second by Councilmember John. Any discussion? Call for a vote. Councilmember Hunter.
Aye.
Councilmember John.
Aye.
Councilmember Carroll.
Aye.
Councilmember Holly.
Aye.
Councilmember Taylor.
Aye.
Okay, item number 13 is a review and action approving the design contract for the 100 East water line replacement. This is at 740 North to 1120 North project.
Mr. Mayor, I move that the city approve the design agreement in substantially the form as presented for the 100 East Water Line Replacement Project with Hanson, Allen & Luce, Inc.
Second.
Motion by Councilmember Holly, second by Councilmember Taylor. Any discussion?
Quick question for Heather. Heather, I serve with one of the principals at Hanson Allen Luce on North Utah County Water Conservancy District Board. Do I need to, is that an issue?
No, you have no economic interest.
I have no
That's
economic
all it
interest,
is.
we just serve on the board. Okay,
No, that's
thank you.
All right.
This has nothing to do with the thing. When is this going? I did not see that. Started this spring or?
That's a great question. The thought is that we would go ahead and design this project just within the next few months and look to build this year. But there are some recent changes with the water line on 200 West in Furnacelli, so there might be a chance that we might move and look to do a project there instead.
Instead of this.
Yeah, because we've had 4 breaks since I've been here for 2 years, and that's right in front of the school, so it might.
We have a break on 100 that I was going to mention, that's why I was asking.
Yeah, we had it last year.
And then, and then we have another one, and then tying into the 740.
Yeah.
But doesn't change the,
Okay. All right, I will, sorry, I'm making, do I have a motion a second? Okay, I'm going to start marking it. That's right. Okay. Councilmember Carroll.
Aye.
Councilmember Taylor.
Aye.
Councilmember Hunter.
Aye.
Councilmember Holly.
Aye.
Councilmember John.
Aye.
All right. I'm back. Okay, review and action on an approval of the standard operating procedures for municipal storm water responsibilities required under the American Fork City MS4 permit. Any questions on this the SM4 permit?
No, I'm
Oh, go ahead,
I
Stacy.
was just going to make a motion.
Okay,
I
yeah,
read-
let's go for it.
I read this and most of it. I move that the city council approve and adopt the standard operating procedures for American Fork City Municipal Separate Storm Sewer System activities as presented and authorize the Storm Drain Division to implement and update procedures as required for compliance with the Utah Small MS4 permit. Lucky you guys.
Second.
We have a motion by Councilmember Carroll, second by Councilmember John. Any discussion on this motion? Okay, I will call for a vote. Councilmember Hunter.
Aye.
Councilmember John.
Aye.
Councilmember Carroll.
Aye.
Councilmember Holly.
Aye.
Councilmember Taylor.
Aye.
When was it implemented that you have to create that document? Was that recent? Okay.
I remember when we had to take over, because I was on that group. Was that before I was on?
The MS4 requirements
Well,
required SOPs before that, yeah.
But when the city had to take it over, it used to be that it was run by, they've been around for.
It's been a while.
But when we took it over as a city.
Water wasn't invented when you came on council.
That's true. Yeah, this would have been before, this would have been since Harvard.
Okay, item number 15 is a review and action on an ordinance approving a code text amendment known as easements of the American Fork City Municipal Code, amending section 15.01.110. Code text amendment removes standard side yard easements.
Pretty straightforward.
Yep.
Mayor, I'd move to approve the proposed code text amendment amending section 15.01.110, titled easements, clarifying easements, references, and removing side yard easements requirements, and providing an effective date for the ordinance.
Got a motion by Councilmember Taylor, second by Councilmember John. Any discussion on this motion?
I was on a Zoom call earlier with Jake down on Stores Avenue, and this is going to affect their finally getting everything wrapped up so that can all be put to bed. And Ben suggested that they wait just a few days and let this come through, and then they could remove one easement as they do it, so.
Great. Okay, I'll call for a vote. Councilmember Carroll.
Aye.
Councilmember John.
Aye.
Councilmember Holly.
Aye.
Councilmember Taylor.
Aye.
Councilmember Hunter.
Aye.
All right, public record, I am pulling item number 16. We will bring that back in a work session and give it a little more time and discussion. So we'll now move on to number 17, review and action on an encroachment agreement with the Utah Department of Transportation for Project SR 399(40).
Mr. Mayor, I move to approve the encroachment license agreement with the Utah Department of Transportation, UDOT, for the work on project SR 399(40).
Okay, I have a motion by Councilmember John.
I'll second.
Second by Councilmember Taylor. Any discussion on this motion? All All right. Call for a vote. Councilmember Hunter?
Aye.
Councilmember John?
Aye.
Councilmember Carroll?
Aye.
Councilmember Holly?
Aye.
Councilmember Tater?
Aye.
Item number 18 is review and action on a resolution providing for the continuity of government pursuant to provisions of the Emergency Interim Succession Act. All right, I have a motion by Councilmember Hunter,
Second.
second by Councilmember Holly. I'll call for a vote. Councilmember Carroll?
Aye.
Councilmember Tater?
Aye.
Councilmember Hunter?
Aye.
Councilmember Holly?
Aye.
Councilmember John?
Aye.
Councilmember Hunter, or Tater, you gonna be around at 9:01 tomorrow?
Yes.
We might need you. All right, the last item is adjournment. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second. Motion by Councilmember Hunter, second by Councilmember John, second by Councilmember Hunter. I'm gonna go for roll call, so I don't have to be told to. I'll go for a roll call vote. Councilmember Carroll.
Aye.
Councilmember John.
Aye.
Councilmember Holly.
Aye.
Councilmember Tater.
Aye.
Councilmember Hunter.
Aye.
All right, we are adjourned. Is that a